Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever part of the world you are tuning in from. This is Funny Like a Clown Podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth, episode 49, right before we get to the big 50, February 1st, 2020. As always, Funny Like a Clown Podcast is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. For the spicy, sweet, savory taste at game time, there is only one G Vegas available at www.gvegas.webs.com. We're discussing comedians, and today we are discussing a radio icon, Jackie the Joke Man Martling. To do that, I have on the phone former director of the hit television show The Comedy Kitchen, former television personality of Up for Discussion Live, former radio host of Jeff in the Morning, and now he has moved out to the country where he's raising turkeys and building tractors. Jeff Sylvia, welcome to the show.
You had me at buffalo sauce, man.
All right.
That sounds good. Now you're just making me hungry.
Who don't like a good buffalo sauce? But how is the country life treating you?
It's fantastic, man. It's everything that you dream about. You know, it's slowing it down and enjoying every day and hugging a turkey. That's what it's all about.
There you go. You value life more. All right, let's just get it out of the way. It is Super Bowl weekend. The people want to know who you picking to win the Super Bowl.
I just found out today that they're still going to have the Super Bowl, even though the Patriots aren't playing in it.
Imagine that. You don't see it often, do you?
And I found out who the two teams were. So if I had to pick one, I got to go with Jimmy G in the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, me too. He used to be a Patriot.
So. New England, and what's his name's a pompous ass. So
KC's the heavy favorite, but they're saying if San Fran comes out, punches him in the mouth early, that'll throw him off the game. That's what it's going to take. I mean.
Oh, I think so. The San Francisco 49ers can run the football, and they have a defense to back it up, and they got a guy that can manage the game, and they've got a great coach, and I think they have everything to put it together tomorrow. But we'll see. KC's explosive, but you never know who's going to show up with KC, and Andy Reid doesn't have the best record in the playoffs, so you never know what KC team's going to show up.
It'll be an interesting game for sure. Interesting. All right. I asked you to choose what comedian you wanted to discuss today. You chose Jackie the Joke Man Martling, and what made you choose him?
Oh, of course. I mean, he's a colorful guy. I know him well. I was able to interview him. I've had him in my home. I don't know how far we can go on this podcast as far as language-wise, but
it's open.
We can talk about stuff Jackie and I did.
Well, I know you used to be the director of our show, The Comedy Kitchen, and we had him on as a guest there. What do you remember most about him being a guest on our show?
Absolutely. I mean, he is like a ball of fire. He's like, I mean, he's an older guy. There's no question about that. But he just never stops, and he's always 150 miles an hour all the time, and he always has a joke for everything.
Energetic.
That's what I remember about him. He's hilarious. He is the part.
I rember he was a moody guy. I mean, one second you're his best friend, and the next second he was complaining about everything. I didn't know which guy we had there, but I mean, it all went well.
Well, he is from New York, so you got to take that with a grain of salt too.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to hit in New York. I've been down there for sure.
Yes, you have. You've been all over the place, man. I'm actually real proud of you.
Sweetie,
I've watched you grow and go nationwide, man.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to me retiring to the country and hugging some turkeys. Trust me, it's been a lot of fun, but it's been a lot of work.
It's cracked up to me, I promise.
It's a lot of work, but he's best known for being the head writer for the Howard Stern Show from 1983 to 2001. What do you remember best about him on the Howard Stern Show?
Well, I remember the story he told about his first joke, which was always pretty cool. And he tells about being a real short kid. And, kind of goofy and always wanting to tell jokes. But he really told his first real joke at a Cub Scout meeting, a Boy Scout meeting. He was part of the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts or whatever it was when you were 11 years old.
Okay.
And he had to give some sort of speech. So he pulled a joke from Boys Life magazine. Now, I don't know if you remember Boys Life magazine, but it was one of
that's going way back
Boy
there.
Scouts and stuff. Yeah. So we're flashing back to that. He actually took a joke and rewrote it about the Cub Master, and when he delivered it on stage, everybody laughed their ass off, and he kind of got the bug right then at 11 years old. So, yeah, I kind of dig this. I can do this.
It's a charge when you get a laugh.
Telling the story about that, about where it all started.
For sure, yeah. Well, who knew that? You got to start in the Cub Scouts. You got to start somewhere. Hey, you never know. When you get that first laugh, it's addictive. You want more for sure. Let's see. He started in
absolutely.
1979, he started developing blue comedy in the New York City comedy clubs. That's going way back there, 79. And Blue comedy, for those of you who don't know, that's working dirty. That's what they call it in the comedy world. But
Oh yeah.
well, what do you prefer yourself? Do you like the dirty jokes or the clean comedians? Which one do you prefer?
Well, I mean, considering I picked Jackie, he's nothing but dirty jokes. I mean, I can clean it up. Tell me if I can go further.
No, you can go. There's no rules here on a podcast. Do what you want.
Well, all of his jokes are about blowjobs. We all know that.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean, you know, and if he's not talking about blowjobs, he's talking about smoking pot. So, I mean, he's a pretty funny guy.
See, but we come from a generation where you can take a joke like that, where the kids of today, they're getting offended by everything. What do you think of that?
That's a tough one, Dennis, because, you know, in general, people getting offended, they got to learn how to live a little bit. You know, I mean, you're looking at kids like us that grew up in the back of station wagons, drinking out of the garden hose, man. I mean, and we came out okay. We may be a little off, but so is everybody else, right?
Yeah, right. The whole world.
I mean, seriously, kids today, I think, really have to just, you know, allow life to come to them a little bit instead of just trying to, you know, be so correct and so perfect and so like everybody else on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just take yourself away from your phone and look to the side for 5 seconds and experience what the world is and take it in. And it's just like the history thing. When people are taking down the flags and trying to remove history,
right.
we learn from that stuff, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Those who don't know their past are doomed to repeat it.
Sure. And if you're going to take down all the bad examples in life, I mean, isn't like the crucifixion the worst thing in the world? So why do we have crosses in church? But don't get me started on that, man.
That's a whole nother. We can do a whole nother show on that one. But it seems it's a politically correct world.
Jackie talks about blowjobs and pot. That's what we like about.
All right, and if you're from our generation, you're not offended by that. You find it funny. Where kids nowadays, I mean, you can't do nothing nowadays without somebody getting offended. So I don't even try personally. I mean, if you like it, you take it. If you don't, that's on you, not me. I mean, I don't even try.
Well, you know, he was kind of the shock factor. I mean, him growing up, you know, it wasn't like it was today. You know, marijuana was the gateway for cocaine, and everybody that did it was a drug addict, and they looked down on people like that. So I don't think he had it quite as good as that. But
today it's legal. Who thought we'd have got there in our lifetime, right?
That's the funny part about it. I mean, now it's legal in so many states, and
it's got medicinal purposes and everything, and the government lied to us about it all these years, and who knew?
That's right. And the pizza places are reaping the benefits of it.
There you go. Let's see. He self-produced 3 albums. What did you expect in 1979? Do you remember any of his comedy albums, or?
Oh yeah, all the Jokeland albums were awesome. We have every one of them here. As a matter of fact, he and Shannon were friends back in the day, and Shannon was the one that introduced me to Jackie.
Okay. So Shannon's your wife, for people who don't know.
And his T-shirts and all of his stuff from Jokeland, and it's just like it's a non-stop party. You could just play 3 hours of it. You never stop laughing your ass off, and your guts hurting at the end of it. He's that kind of guy. He just never stops. Yeah,
if you asked you right now how many street jokes could you tell, maybe how many would you know? 3, 4, 5? I mean, this guy can go on for an hour and just never stop. How many people could do that?
Oh, easy. Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, you know, and even if I try to like bone up for a week, there's only so much you can do. But
yeah, you can't go on
like
for him.
An incredible library, and he tells that story too on Howard Stern. It's funny you mention that because he talks about as a kid growing up and then getting to be a young adult. He's like, he thought everybody in the world knew all these jokes, but then he discovered that he was the only one that knew these thousands of jokes, and that's how he kind of came to be. So
you've heard that one before? No, I haven't. Who knows? But
yeah.
Well, let's see. You got to start in radio on the Rick Dees show. He started out as a regular joke feature on the show, where people would call in and try to stump him with a joke. And even though he's known as the joke man, they said more often than not he would get the joke wrong. He'd get the punchline of the joke wrong. But I think he more did it. That's how he built up his arsenal of jokes. Yeah, he might get it wrong, but he just got a new joke from somebody calling in, you know? That's a smart.
Yeah, that's right. No, everybody signed their creative license away when they called the show, so he was able to take that and run with it.
Yeah, that's how he got all his jokes. People calling in. I mean, I got them wrong, but I got a new joke. So, I mean, it was a smart move on his behalf.
Now, I don't know if you remember or not, but when you guys were on our show, you called in Jackie, and you actually stumped him.
I stumped him with a joke, right? Who knew I could stump the joke master? I got that one on my resume, right?
That's right. That's right. So, that's there on YouTube, preserved forever for the world to see.
There we go. So, from the Rick D show, he actually sent some albums over to Howard Stern. Now, this was before he got really popular, and Howard actually liked his albums, and he invited him to be a weekly regular and a writer in 1983, which led to him being hired as the head writer from 86 to 2001. Now, who came up with all the premises for your showing up for discussion? Was it you and Shannon, or where did you get your ideas?
It's funny because I did everything, and I'm not saying that to be pompous or to brag, but you know, Shannon was kind of busy. She was running a business. She was doing her television stuff on Ghost Hunters,
right.
And believe me when I tell you, I wrote it, I produced it, I ran every camera, I ran every microphone, I tweaked all the sound, and plus we hosted it together. So yeah, it's a unique setup that we had, and it's kind of like playing a grand piano and a xylophone and a violin all at the same time.
It becomes your baby, though. Your show becomes your baby. You want to put more into it because that's your baby, you know?
Well, you know, back in the day, it's funny, we just started watching some of these lately, and, you know, we were doing this stuff long before Facebook Live ever came out, where we had a side chat room and we had a live feed going, you know, long before all this stuff ever came out.
Oh, sure,
yeah. It was cool to go back and watch some of the old stuff we did.
Yeah, I was on internet radio was when I first started comedy, and I was off. There was one main station that started it, and then there was about 3 stations that broke off from that, and I was on one of the 3 stations that broke off from the main one that started internet radio. So I mean, I'm going way back there in internet radio. So, but it's that's dating us, I guess. It just shows how old we are, right?
Well, the cool thing is, you know, especially if you did video stuff, it was tough for your viewing audience to watch what you produced because, you know, the stream was so limited.
Right. You
now, with the bandwidths that they have,
you see the little hourglass.
You know, it's so great for people to be able to get out and do that stuff and use the tremendous bandwidth that's available to produce TV shows.
Yeah, I mean, the world's at your fingertips nowadays. You don't have to stare an hourglass anymore.
No, definitely not. But, you know, every kid wants to be on YouTube, and it's quickly becoming very saturated. So
yeah,
it's
going the other way.
That's for sure.
You're right. Let's see, other albums Jackie put out: Sergeant Pecker in '96, The Joke Man in '96, Hot Dogs and Donuts in '98. After the Howard Stern show, he worked in some stand-up, doing movies and doing television. 2006 to 14 on Sirius XM satellite radio, he did Jackie's Joke Hunt. I mean, do you remember on Sirius? Do you have Sirius or?
Oh yeah.
What can you tell us about that show?
Well, you know, when he gives all the accolades and kudos to Howard. I mean, he's very grateful to Howard. Unlike John Melendez, Stuttering John,
who's not very gracious.
It kind of tears Howard apart. But Jackie will always be humble to Howard, and on his show, you know, he just developed what he had on the Howard Stern show and just took it for himself, you know.
Right.
And you know, everything that he's done, he gives credit to that, launching his platform. And where he went from there, he's always remembered the roots, and he's always kept a part of that ingrained in what he did. So,
sure.
You know, Howard Stern has a lot to do with Jackie, you know, being famous and getting to the level he did, that's for sure.
You know what I mean? Not anybody gets on the #1 show in radio, but I mean, I had a local guy around here, Jerry Caruso, who, you know, he gave me, you know, my start, and I'll forever be grateful to him. I wouldn't even do any of this if it wasn't for him, you know. But it's like,
Jerry's awesome.
There becomes a time, you know, when a kid leaves a parent's house, you know. I mean, the parent wants them to stay there and be their kid forever, but at some point you got to go off and be an adult, and I get that way between me and Jerry. I could only be a student for so long, or sometime I had to go off and do my own thing, but I'll forever be grateful for the start that he gave me for sure.
Well, Jerry is not only a great teacher to young comics, but he's also does a tremendous amount to charity.
Oh, yeah, more than
that. And I know you have it all along, but he instills it in people like yourself and everybody that comes along, you know, let's call it through the Jerry Caruso school, gets that part of it, which I think is very, very cool.
It's an important part, too. You always got to give back. Well, who gave you your start? Maybe what got you the bug to do radio and TV and stuff?
It's actually a great story because Shannon being on Sci-Fi Channel, you know, the world was calling Shannon, and Shannon was doing every interview in the world, and all of a sudden they wanted to talk to, you know, the man behind the woman, kind of like you talk to the woman behind the man when he's famous. So I'm like, nah, I'm kind of happy being back, you know, right where I am. And they're like, nah, we really want to talk to you. So I said, okay.
Give us the inside scoop, Jeff, about Shannon, right? She won't give us the dirt, so they try to get it from you, right?
Exactly. They wanted to, you know, know the skinny on her. So they said, okay, well, we're going to talk for a 2-hour interview. And I said, geez, I said, I don't even know if I can go 15 minutes, but I'll try. Well, it happened. I made the call, and the 2 hours felt like 5 minutes.
It goes quick once you start.
It was kind of magical, and they said, "Wow, you have a great radio voice. You ought to do your own stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, not really interested in that." And they kept asking and asking, and finally I said, "Look, I'll do it if it's about anything but the paranormal, because everybody in the world wants to do that right now. I want to do about everything else."
Be different.
And that's kind of how it all got started.
Be the first. There you go.
Yeah,
and here you are on Funny Like Clown podcast years later.
I was so lucky. I mean, in the first years we were looking for guests, but I mean, like as we started to roll along, just the comics I've done. I mean, I've been able to produce Gilbert Godfrey, Jackie the Joke Man, John Melendez, J.G. Walker, you and I did, Steve Sweeney, just people that you introduced me to.
Yeah, it's fun when you get to touch your heroes like that. Yeah, you know, you're the one booking them and saying, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?"
We talked to Donnie Most from Happy Days.
I mean,
right. You know, just amazing people that we got to meet along the way, and many years of doing it.
Well, getting back to Jackie, here's one I didn't know about him. I don't know if you knew about this or not, but in 2008, he actually put out a musical album called Happy Endings. Did you know he was a musician in addition to a comedian?
I did. He actually talks a lot about playing guitar growing up, and he got pretty good at it, but he actually just did it to get chicks, and he wasn't really good enough to be anything more than, maybe a side musician here and there, but he'd be the first to tell you that he loved comedy first, but he picked up the guitar so he could get checks.
All right. Well, you got to do something to get them. If guitar is it, then that's what you do.
You know, he's got goals. That's important.
So let's say he put out 2 books, Disgustingly Dirty in 1998. The Disgustingly Dirty Joke Book is what it was called. And 2017, The Joke Man Bow to Stern. Have you read either one of his books or no?
I have to admit I haven't read those. No.
All right, so that's something we got to look into. But he does have two jokes under his belt, and now I guess here's where we get into the nitty gritty of his whole career here. He went to a contract negotiation on the Howard Stern show, and it was reported that he was earning $578,000, and he asked for $1 million over the next 5 years. It got really dirty. He let the time go too long with the negotiation, and they ended up hiring Artie Lang to replace him. Now, what's your opinion? I mean, anybody else in radio would have been flattered with that offer, but I mean, you're on the #1 show in radio. Do you think he should have been happy to be there, or do you think he should have said, "Hey, I'm on the #1 show. I deserve more"? What would you have done?
You know, that's a lot of money. And I guess it's proportional to your lifestyle, but, you know, maybe in New York City that doesn't represent what he felt he should have had, but,
right.
Man, that's a lot of money to be along with the guy that, was viewed the way Howard was. At the time, he was a giant, and he was just, getting to be bigger and bigger than life itself.
Now, I mean, if you told the young him $578,000, he'd have jumped at it, obviously, because he was a nobody. But now he's a part of the #1 show, in radio. So, I mean, if you worked hard to get there, do you think you deserve a little more, or should you just be grateful for getting there?
I think that when you're part of a team like that, you kind of look around you and you say, this thing works because of all of its moving parts.
That's a good point.
Maybe by going out on my own isn't the greatest idea.
That's what Robin Gibbons said the same thing. She said, a couple times she had Howard go for bat for her in a contract negotiation, and later on, she, how many times can you go to the well? She said she took less money to, stay a part of the show.
Well, look, and I hate to bring it back to sports, but look what Tom Brady's done for years to surround himself with talent, and he's viewed as the greatest of all time. So, I guess I share that mentality. You're only good as the sum of your moving parts.
You're right.
That show was what it was because of all.
I hate that when you got a good band and they break up, and it's like, why? You worked so hard to get there. Why would you break up? But I guess fame and money.
Everybody gets a big head and wants to
everybody reacts differently to fame and money. Yeah.
Realize what you have. That's my answer.
Now, Jackie said that it wasn't only because of the money. He said that he was part of the Howard Stern show, which, as you know, they talk about anything, and they wanted Jackie to talk about his divorce and him dealing with alcoholism on the air, which is really personal stuff, but if you're part of that #1 show, you're expected to talk about it, where he really didn't want to. And I got into this argument with a guy at work. He said he was listening to Howard Stern, and Howard called his mother, and he was talking to his mother about anal sex. Now, I could never talk to my mother in a million years about anal sex, but that's why you listen, because you're in shock. You're, oh my God, I can't believe this guy's doing this, and that's why he's the #1 show. Now, do you think there's limits to what you should be able to talk to, or do you think, hey, you're in the entertainment business, there's no limits?
Well, I'm kind of the wrong guy to ask because I'm old-fashioned. It's like if your buddy's known for like hitting on your wife all the time when he comes over, and it's just the way he is.
Right.
I probably wouldn't have him around my wife. You kind of direct your own course of life, and you know what you're getting with Howard. I mean, if you sign up for it, you gotta eat.
You gotta go with it, right?
But at the same time, that's a tough call because there is a human side to things, and who knows what sets people off personally.
Everybody's got something they don't want to talk about.
Going postal wasn't even a term until some poor post went out and freaked out, and it was kind of the joke because who'd have thought who had a better job, stress-free job than that, right?
Right.
So it goes to show you it can happen to anybody. So I have a hard time answering that question because it's tough for me to judge what sets a person up. But I can certainly respect, the area of privacy because that's kind of where I come from.
Yeah, it's like you said, he chose to be on that show, and that format is to talk about anything. So if you're going to choose to be there, but whether you want to, I mean, he's talking about stuff you don't want to, but that's what the paparazzi said. If you choose to be famous, you have to expect the paparazzi to follow you around where you really don't want them to, but that's the lifestyle you've chosen, so it's a catch-22, I guess.
With the territory.
Yeah, right. So let's see, he performed a one-man show on Broadway called Jokeland on Broadway. Well, what do you think about the Broadway scene?
It's funny because Broadway to me is like where like old people go to retire. Like when Bruce Springsteen did Broadway, it's kind of like, okay, well, yeah,
it's like Vegas, right?
Them anymore. It's like where old people go to die. I don't know, man.
All the big name bands, they go to Vegas,
it's
right?
Cool, and I have an appreciation for it because it's so massive and it has such a.
Yeah, I mean, there's Broadway and there's off Broadway. So I mean, if you're gonna do it, be on Broadway. If you're off Broadway, that means you're not big enough to be on Broadway. So I mean, if he was big enough to be on Broadway, good for him. I mean, that's
sure.
Certainly some money there.
Great feather for your resume,
Sure.
Why not?
Let's see. He started doing television and movies. He appeared in Fred Carpenter's Send No Flowers. He was in the short film My Cross to Bear. 2005, The Aristocrats. Venus Vegas in 2010. Mail Order Bride 2008. White Irish Drinkers in 2010. And the TV show on TNT Leverage in 2007. Do you remember any of those shows, his appearances on them? Or?
Well, I didn't watch much of him on television except for his stand-up stuff.
Yeah, he's mostly known for that.
I wasn't really able to catch too much in the movies. But,
more cameos.
Yeah.
Let's see now, and I don't know if you know about this. I know you guys are friends with him, but on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, the Colossal Amazing podcast, just recently, he announced that he was diagnosed with autism. So, did you know that about him, or?
About Jackie?
Yeah.
I actually did.
Really?
I knew that he was autistic.
Well, it goes to show that they're going to slow you down.
He did a lot to overcome that, and if anybody can write a book, about autism, look what he did. And what he became and how he came out of his shell.
How you can overcome it, so it's a feel-good story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now here was a smart move, I thought, by him. He put out a couple of CDs, and, he's got the average CDs that the adult person would listen to, but he took out 2 CDs called The Joke Master Jr. One he told jokes for ages 3 to 12, and another one he told jokes from ages 12 to 16. So that's almost a genius move right there, I think, tapping into the kids market where you see a lot of, the funny comedians, they have the hit movie and then they go to a cartoon, like Jerry Seinfeld with the B movie, Mike Myers with Shrek, because it's a safe move, if you go to a cartoon, they're almost always a hit, rather than take a chance on bombing in your next film. I mean, do you think that's a safe move going to a kid thing?
I don't really think it's a brilliant move. I think it shows the amount of talent somebody has. I mean, it's like, an actor that would be known for one thing that crosses over. I mean, Jackie is known for talking about blowjobs and pot and telling the dirtiest jokes on the planet.
Right.
For him to even, attempt to do that and be good at it, I mean, that's tremendous, and what a tremendous talent,
Sure.
to be able to carry that over. I can imagine being a parent. I'd be like, yeah,
I'm going to buy this for my kid, right? Sure.
And then we'll go from there, just in case.
But no, a lot of people didn't even know. George Carlin was the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine. So, I mean, going to a children's show, I think it's a smart move. Smart, safe move. I mean...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You really can't
especially where it was going at the time with animation and all of the creative genius that Disney was doing with movies up and coming, with stuff like that. It's a great move to go into kid stuff like that.
Sure. All right. Well, we're getting toward the end of the podcast here, so I'll give you the stage. You being a friend of Jackie the Joke Man, you being a fan of Jackie the Joke Man, what would you want other people to know about him?
He's just a tremendous guy. He's a sweet guy. He cares about people, genuinely cares about people. As big as he is, he'll look at you in the eye and have a real conversation with you. And, he's funny as shit. I mean, what you see on stage is pretty much what you get in real life. He doesn't turn it off. I've never seen him in a bad mood, and maybe from travel and shit, you can see him getting a little grumpy. But most of the time, he is the part. I mean, he embraces life. He just loves to tell jokes. He loves to make people laugh. And the energy he gets from you laughing is what keeps him going at the pace he is, at the age he is, because the guy's still on fire.
There you go. You make the most of your time, and he's certainly making the most of what he was given in life, which was a God-given talent to make people laugh. All right, we end off every show with some trivia. I'm going to ask you 3 trivia questions about Jackie the Joke Man. I'll say no one's ever gone 3 for 3 on trivia on Funny Like Clown podcast. Only a couple people have gotten 2 right. Most go 1 or none, but it's informative. You ready for some trivia?
Do I win a shancake if I get them all 3 right?
Do you get a shancake? You have to ask Shannon, but we might get you some G Vegas buffalo sauce, our sponsor. We might get you a bottle of that.
You got it, Bubba. All right, let's go for it.
All right. Let's see. During his college years, as you already mentioned, he was in a band, and he played the guitar, but he also did some solo shows in music. In addition to the guitar, he could play 3 other off instruments. Can you name one of the 3 off instruments he played?
Drums.
No, it was a kazoo. It was the noisemaker where you'd roll it around. He had some crazy stuff he did with the car in his one-man show. If you can play a guitar and a kazoo, that's quite the duo. All right. Number 2, while he was in a band, he actually bought a car to put all the band's gear in to travel around in. Do you know what kind of car he bought?
I wouldn't, but let me see. I'm going to guess a Volvo.
It was a hearse, actually. Can you imagine going around from gig to gig playing in a band in a hearse to bring your band equipment? You hear from the dead? No, we're here to play, man. All right, let's go. 3rd trivia question. In 2001, he actually made history by being the first comedic performer to perform in what club in New York City?
I know what the name of it is, too. Laugh something,
Well, I'll give you a hint. It wasn't a comedy club. That's why he made history, because he was in a place that wasn't a comedy club.
Gotham something?
No, it was B.B. King's Blues House.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was the only comedian to play in a blues house. Who knew about it? You did as good as everybody else. It's informative, but oh what. All right, Jeff, I want to thank you for being on the show.
For an 0 for 3 guy, do you?
No buffalo sauce for you, baby.
Oh, no.
Well, I hope you had fun. Thanks for being on the show, and I wish you luck out there with the turkeys and the tractors and all your good stuff you're doing.
You as well, Dennis.
All right, talk soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, Jeff Sylvia from the Jeff and Shannon Show, up for discussion live. Jeff in the morning, and director of the hit television show, The Comedy Kitchen, and we had some fun times on that show. We're having more fun times here on Funny Like Clown podcast. Jackie the Joke Man Martling, man, what can you say? I mean, how many people could say they've been on the #1 radio show of all time, and he can put that claim to his name, and a 20-year run. Yeah, okay, he had contract negotiations and left the show, but he had a 20-year run, and he helped the show become what it was. So hopefully the Funny Like Clown podcast can reach those heights someday, and you, the listener, makes that happen. So thank you so much for tuning in. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, your daughters, your son. Tell everybody to tune in. Funny Like a Clown podcast. We're discussing comedians because laughter is the best medicine. Until next week, keep laughing, folks. Good night.